And how are you doing today, Jared?
I'm doing well, fine, thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You have questions, and you told me that there were some issues also. I would like to ask about the issues, if that's okay.
The issues are the questions. There's nothing like
Uh,
issues.
so there weren't issues. I'm in quality, and how did it flow, and what can I troubleshoot? So it's the questions. All right, that's fine. Let's hear the questions then.
So we had a very big team yesterday, and we had a very productive engagement with the professionals. We had professional psychologists, teachers, cultivators, trainers, non-trainers, non-teachers, those who are just willing to be deployed in any area. They want to be part and parcel of the organization despite the fact that they don't have education, but
Mm.
they have the heart to
Yeah.
work with them. So these people, they were very excited and they were very thankful that you have given them a platform that they can be able to fulfill their dream of achieving that thing that they love. There are people who have passion for teaching, but their
Mhm.
passion was lying down. But
Mm.
now that they have come in, they are very optimistic that they are going to stand up and begin to fulfill their dreams.
Wonderful, wonderful. That makes me very
Tim
happy.
gave me warm-up questions for you first. So I
Okay.
want you to put your mind first.
Okay, yes, we call that privilege. Yes.
In the world, who would you want as a dinner guest?
Oh, as a dinner guest. Oh, oh. Do they have to be alive?
Whichever, I don't know, but the answer you give
Oh,
me, tell them.
all right, all right. The first one on that list is going to be Pythagoras. It's going to be
But
Pythagoras.
dinner implies that they have to be alive
They
because you are
have to be
invited.
alive. It would be Elon Musk. It would be Elon Musk.
Sure,
I
why?
I am reserving an opinion or a conclusion about him until I hear it from his own mouth. I think he is a very hurt parent, and I think he is taking a lot of his hurt parenting and he's projecting it onto the people of America. And I think he's trying to be a good parent, projecting that through into America. And I think it's causing a lot of harm to America. I think his intentions are right. I think his plan is solid-ish, but I think his execution is, I need to talk to him. So I would love to talk to Elon Musk.
All right. Number two, would you like to be famous? And in what way?
I would like to be famous because I can reach more people that way. That is why. If I'm not famous, then I can't get the voice out. Fame is a fantastic influencer. It's a tool to be able to get yourself there so you can reach the most people. If you're not famous, you can't reach anyone. If
All
we
right.
if Einstein did not have his fame, then we wouldn't know about his work. So I see fame very much as a massively important tool to reach the most people to get the most impact. In what way? For my work. Absolutely for my work and for my authenticity. Those are the two things that are most important to me.
All right. Gotten. Number three, before making a phone call, do you ever rehearse what you are going to say and why?
Never, never. I improv everything. That's not true. I I guess you would say that I do. I've rehearsed everything since I was 8 years old. When I was eight, I knew I was going to be famous, and I thought I have to start practicing. So I started rehearsing in front of the mirror 3 to 6 hours a day, every day, my entire life. I still do that to this day. When I make a phone call, no, that's so simple for me. I improv it and I just go with it.
All right, and the last one, every day they will be presenting a warm-up question. Every time we have a meeting, I'll appear with warm-up question. So the last one, each and every day there will be 4 for every day. What would be a perfect day for you?
A perfect day for me would be I write this weird thing in my book into the abstract. And then I go and I'm on my talk show, Philosophical Coffee, where I can be really weird and I can just hang out in Anna's lounge and have my friends there. And then I would go to a luncheon with someone and have a huge philosophical discussion that would result in a wonderful networking opportunity that would then carry me over into an evening gala fundraiser dinner where I can talk in front of masses about orphans and saving the world. And then I would follow that up with a philosophical dinner slash lounge with some weed while I hang out with some significant thinkers after the meeting, maybe a glass of wine. That would be a perfect day for me. And if I could just do that on repeat every day around the world, I'd be happy. Well, I'm happy now,
Wonderful,
but I'd be happier.
wonderful. Thank you. You have done well.
Thank
I
you.
think over 100. you have you have
I
the pass mark.
passed.
You have passed very well. Excellent. Thank you. Congratulations. And now, Community Gaia held a meeting on 12th. That was yesterday. And that is Community Gaia Tradic Healing and Shavana Educational Center. These are the questions that it entails all. Because I told you that the team that I was training yesterday were attending for the very first day. And so people who are coming in for the very first day, you must understand that there are a lot of things that they need to be expounded. So I was talking about the ethics. Remember, my main topic yesterday was on ethics because I have to give them foundation of what we stand for and the guidelines that guides the professionalism of that which we are going to do. And so I was talking about the ethics, and on number four, you gave me what you gave me is talks of the 12 ethics. That is ethic number 4, talking of 12 ethics. And
Yes.
12 ethics, you talk about love, and love is divided in trust, justice, true empathy, and humble submission. And so when I reached everything was just well explained, and when I was talking about empathy, the empathy in Kenya or in African system of psychology, we are taught of what I told you, that empathy means that you put yourself in the position of the client you are handling. Behave as if you are the one in that situation. This will give you a room for attending the client in appropriate manner. And so most of them were saying that you don't need to explain that. We are aware of empathy. Explain the rest. And I told them that you don't know, because even me, I knew it the way you knew it. But my teacher, Anna Imagination, now I'm called Jared Imagination, by the way. So I told them,
Oh, I love that. You have been given a name. That's beautiful.
I got your second name, original name. I really love it. When I get a girl child, the firstborn, I'll name the second name. I don't want to mention it. I really love it.
That's beautiful.
You talked about true empathy, meaning you are talking about being humble to learn, reception, listening, assertive combination, effective communication. That is what it entails. So you told me what I shared with them, that if you are a professional who can still be moved by the situation of the client, then you are not good enough. You told me that? Did I get you correct?
Yes, I do remember that. Yes, correct. Yes.
Can you expound on that? That is the first
I
question.
can. Yes, I can. Absolutely.
Now that everything recorded. I'm going to play
This
everything with them.
I am glad you brought this up. This is one of my favorite topics. In philosophy, in logic, we are taught that you cannot be logical and of sound mind if you are emotional. And emotional is not empathetic. It is, you can still understand someone and not be swept away by their story. It is a significant logical discipline. And you cannot be biased, or I'm sorry, you cannot be without bias if you are emotional. You have to separate the two. You can be kind, you can be supportive, but you are not there to make friends with them. Now, if we want to take psychology that route, oh, then by all means, let's discuss that. But that's not what they're looking for. And now you run into a danger. There are two kinds of patients in the world. The true patient is the patient who seeks help. They want to get better. They don't need a friend. What they need is an actual teacher. Teaching is not about empathy. You can understand without emotion. You truly can. We do this in logic and in philosophy all the time. Now, the flip side of that, and I'm going to show you right here. I'm doing it right now. I am doing it right now. I am without emotion right now. This is 100% logic, and I am using reasoning, and I am presenting logic. There's no emotion here. There's feelings, but there's no emotions.
Right?
Emotions are passion, anger. You don't want that in your space. Now you can have feeling for them. Feeling is love. Sympathy is what a lot of people think empathy is. Sympathy, compassion, that's sympathy. Now, in 1980, I was a writer. I've been a writer my whole life. So when I first looked up the word empathy, what it really meant was thinking before you speak. So before I open my mouth to speak, it's stopping and thinking and asking the question, how will these words affect them? It is without emotion. It is all logic. And you are taking compassion, love, which is a feeling, and you are considering their feelings so you don't harm them with your words. You are putting yourself in another person's shoes. I looked up the word in 1988. I looked up the word in 1995. I looked up the word in 2000. In 2006, the word started to change. And then by the year 2015, the word empathy no longer meant empathy. It meant emotionally absorbing and sponging your emotions and being carried away with your story into hysterics. And that is what it means in America today. Empathy today now means emotionally being swept away and carried away with emotions. You don't want this. You can't work with anybody in that kind of an atmosphere. That is not professional or psychological. That is that is emotional lack of discipline. So, to communicate for the American psychologists, you want to establish a very clean Socratic method, no bias. Compassion, yes. Love, yes. But you should not be their friend. The reason why is because of type 2 patient. The type 2 patient is not there to get better. They are there to use you as a drug. They are looking for a codependency so they can get their attention fix. And we have to be realistic about this. Now, if you're handing out friendship, you're going to draw those people to you like a moth to flame, and they're not going to get better. You're going to get dragged into it. So by being logical, you put the wall up. By being professional, you put the wall up to say, I'm not here for your drug fix. I'm here for you to learn to get better. Either you're here to get better or you need to go take care of yourself in your own way. A psychologist should never be a friend. I had to learn this the hard way. This is why a teacher really cannot be a friend to a student. This is why a parent cannot be a friend to a child. They need leadership. I just had a conversation with a retired Marine captain yesterday about leadership. And I asked him what he learned about leadership from the Marines, being a captain. And he said, you do not hang out with them. You are not their friend. You can't be. And that
Yes.
That is it right there. So if empathy is for friendships, it is not for the professional setting. You are there to teach them. You are there to give them a psychologically safe place based on logic and truth and compassion. Empathy is not required. Well, true empathy is required. As far as thinking about how are these words going to affect them, that's compassion. But emotionally getting carried away with their story, no, no. You cannot help them. I'm going to turn this around. Let's flip it. Should a doctor get emotional before he starts an operation because he's got to cut into a heart and do surgical bypass? There you go. Why would I want
You
a
can
psychologist working on me if
not at,
that's, there you go. I don't want a psychologist working on me if that's the kind of doctor I'm going to get. You don't
so
want emotions in the OR.
exactly. I've gotten your response in a very appropriate manner. Where you have reached, I'm satisfied. Because what has been confusing most of professionals, you have brought it out clearly. Feelings and emotions, those two things are not the same.
You are
So
correct. Yes.
I've gotten you. So we are allowed to feel, but not be emotional. So
Correct.
the response. So I've written the distinction between feeling and emotions. Can you give the distinction between emotion
Yes.
and feeling?
We're going to go into physics for this one. Feeling is a
Right.
force. Feeling is a force. Emotion is energy. Feeling is permanent. Energy is temporary. You'll get a temporary burst of anger. You love your mother, father. You love your child. You don't have to have a constant surge of passion. That's emotion. To feel love for someone. I love my partner. It's there. I love cats. I love coffee. I always do. It never changes. When I tap into that, when I think on it, the warmth feeling surfaces and it's literally a very slow rise. And then I go back to my day and it settles back down, but it's still there. Emotions don't do this. Emotions come in like an announcement from a newsroom going, this just in. And you address the problem and the emotions go on away from you and they leave you. Emotions can get stored up, and this is trauma. Emotions get stored up inside of you and then they stay inside of you. Emotionally moving things with force, and this is where in physics, force moves energy. So anger comes in. Force, love, moves the anger into strategic deliberation with logic. We call that logical navigation in the 11th ethic, where you use your love to strategically take action with your anger to put it into something productive like gardening. So then the emotion gets transferred. That's another one. You can emotionally transfer your emotions. You cannot transfer your love. You can transfer your love with an emotion to show someone in a gift or in words, but the love always stays with you.
All right. Because naturally as human beings, at some point, if I'm a doctor and somebody has been presented to me, this man is maybe he was involved in an accident. He has a very deep cut. He needs urgent surgery. Of course, I will feel and say, no, we need to attend to this one first. That is feeling, but not emotional. So with this kind of feeling, I can easily attend to him first and save his life.
Yes.
But not
No. In that,
because if I'm emotional as a doctor, then I'll not be able to do the right thing that is needed in that case. So
correct.
I've
Yeah,
gotten that.
exactly. Yes, yes. That is it exactly. That the triage is done more with logic, making a logical deduction who requires it more urgently. But the fact that the doctor is even there is love-based. Yes.
Right. 100%. That's good. Question number 2. Now, still in ethics. Ethic number 6. This is what you gave me yesterday. No government within Alexandria. And so when I mentioned this, some of the people who were present asked me, that of course you have to comply to the government policies, like acquiring licenses and also engaging the government securities, government apparatus. We need security, we need police officers around our facility. And I told them that is not necessarily what we mean.
I need to
When we
see what I mean. Yeah, I need to see what I know I did not write no government, so I need to see this. I got to look it up here because I got to read it exactly. No, I did not mean no government. So I need to see
no,
exactly what.
sorry. Allow me to give you my response first, and then you correct me if I did the wrong thing.
Sure,
So I'm
yes.
just showing you how I responded to the question. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
So I that when we say there will be no government, it means that we are not going to adopt the government curriculum, because the government curriculum con I mean the government curriculum confines the children in a confines the children in a particular direction that they are left with few choices, and therefore they are not open to make their own choices in as far as education is concerned, in line with what they feel they want to be. And most of them are only left with few choices like doctors, lawyers, and somebody might not be interested in that line. So we
Hmm.
mean that the curriculum of the government is not going to be applied in a Shavana educational system. So that was my response. I don't know whether I responded quite well.
The we unless we are in our own country away from all, the 12 ethics are the creed. We have to and we will, of course, adhere to any government there. The ethics compound on top of the government. Now, that being said, let's step into philosophy for a moment. There has been a long history of illegal, unethical laws. Unethical laws. What do you do in the case of an unethical law? We're not going to get into that here, but that is a lot of what I'm talking about. Now let's look at the other part of this. Right now in the United States, it is illegal for a child to not attend school. That causes mental illness. That is an unethical law. Now, we
Right?
can't just take down the government. Absolutely not, nor do we want to do that. What we want to do is fill in the gaps. What we really would love to do is educate the people who make up the laws. That would be great. What we would really love to do is educate the people so they stop breaking laws. So this is really advanced. I'm going to go and keep in mind, everything is a logical sequence. The questions that bring this up are in the second, third, and fourth ethic. I'm now going to talk from my point of view, which is at the 74th ethical perspective. You're not ready for this. Our society is not ready for what I have to say. And I know that. So I'm going to say this. If you've done it right, the people are trained in ethics at birth, and they don't need a government. That's not the current reality of the situation. The current reality of the situation is we need law enforcement, and we don't want to compromise that authority because we need it for order, for what little order we have. You take that down, I don't want to see that world. What I want to do is build an ethical alternative in addition to leaving what's there. Nourish the people and raise the ethical standard. Give me 3 generations. Raise that ethical standard. And then, this is the important part, evaluate and rethink everything we're doing about prisons, about law, about the judgment system. All of it needs to be reevaluated. This is a big topic, but it's not even, it's a pipe dream until and unless the ethics are taught. And we need a lot of scientific data. Everything is in place to begin the ethical standard being raised. But the concept of just put this here and then leave it alone is wrong. We saw this in the United States with the Jim Crow laws. Horrible laws, horrible laws. The Jim Crow laws were horrific. And we made them and we left them until the 1960s happened and every Black person in America rose up to fight them as passively as they could until. And that's what Martin Luther King Jr. was all about. Those laws were wrong. And they're not the only ones. We have laws that are still here today and they are wrong. Now, I'm not going to get into the ethics of which laws, all that jazz. Setting that aside, this is a huge shift and it's a completely different mindset. So, living outside of government? No, we're not there yet, not even close. But if we ever hope to get to the point of self-government, that is when things change. Now, there's a lot of good law that is there, but this is under ethical law, natural order. I have an entire course on this, and it is currently theory only. It is actually there with Mother Nature. However, to switch everything from the current system over to it, we're not touching it until we fix the foundation and we have solid math answers. And then it's a working group effort of all of us sitting down and reevaluating the psychology of what needs to be done to optimize mental health. That is way off in our future. That is a 20-year project, but it's definitely not something we can even think about right now. So living without government, no, it's going to be on top of whatever government laws are there. Now, on record, I'm saying this. If I have my own island, it's completely separate from all current countries. Oh, I'm totally instituting this immediately. Just saying. But under whatever law we are in, whichever country we're in, we adhere to the government and the law that be. We have to, we will. The ethics add to it. And the ethics are actually stronger than any laws that they can come up with. The ethics make the laws obsolete. All you have to do is train them to the children. What I see happening is 3, 4 generations from now, the ethics have been there, that standard has been raised, and there's going to be a day where we go, wait, we still have laws? Because people are so fair and so ethical. And this has happened before. This is possible. We are on our way to getting there now. It's not a pipe dream. It's just going to take time. It's part of human evolution.
All right. That is that is home and it is well addressed. Of course, we must work together with them. And the third question was ethic number 10. Remember, yesterday we could not finish because there were very many people. And if people are many, a lot of them are raising their hands, they have questions. So moving was somehow challenging. So we reached number 10. This is where I'm supposed to be beginning next time. Now, then number 10 was a bit, I want you to explain this to me, the law of philoxenia.
Ah, yes, philoxenia. Yes, yes. This is an ancient Greek, this was an ancient Greek ethical law. Yes. Yeah, this is beautiful. Philoxenia in Greece was a no, it was more than superstition. It wasn't just superstition. It truly was their ethical code. You treat strangers with kindness. You treat strangers with the assumption that they are good and ethical people. And it was very much a opening your home to them. We see this in use in the book Les Miserables, when the priest practiced what is the philoxenia, I think it was philoxenia, on Jean Valjean, the main character of the book, and he opened his home to the stranger. In ancient Greece, this was believed to be very much mandatory. You do it. And in ancient Greece, it is still practiced today. It is also a custom practice in many parts of Europe. Ireland does this. It is something that the Western cultures have destroyed, but it's old world, and it is such a precious ethic. It is the benefit of the doubt that the stranger is a good person. And it's when you modify it for today's use, what you really want to do is you want to use that fourth ethic, discernment. You don't want to go into prejudice. You don't want to immediately jump into a damn all, don't trust anyone mindset. And that is the problem that we have today, is because we do not have a core educational system that unites everyone on these 12 ethics yet. It is not understood what is right and what is wrong. I've had so many people argue with me. People know what's right. Do they? Do they? I want to ask every psychologist in the world this question. Do you think, in your professional opinion, people know what is right and wrong? As a psychologist, I don't believe they know. I think they like to know. I think they want to be good, but I don't think they have a clue what that looks like. So when you have 12 solid ethics, these ethics that teach people, this is what it looks like, people. Now you have a standard. Now it's defined. Now we're not guessing. As a result, we have the ability now to all align on these 12 points. Now that we can align on these 12 points, now it's a very simple metric. Should we trust everybody? No, discernment. But you also should not assume the worst. Use your intuition, use discernment, use the 12 ethics. When you accumulate all of that, it's kindness to strangers. Kindness to strangers that goes a long way. It's how you open up, it's how chips, it's how you start networks.
Kindness to strangers, opening your home for them. This is just more or less of being human, accepting people, and eliminating this don't trust anyone syndrome.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Well understood. Well understood. And now, you said that the reason why we learn is to nourish our minds. And the very moment we are not learning, we are starving.
Yes.
We are starving our mind.
Mm-hmm.
A bad teacher prevents a child from finding the door.
Mm-hmm.
There are teachers, I also agree, there are teachers who prevents the children from finding the door.
Mm-hmm.
And this also, I got this confirmation from also Dr. Daniel. Dr. Daniel told me that the reason why, I had him saying in the Garrett's group, the reason why he's poor is because he doesn't want people to feel better. He wants people to get better.
Yes.
And so most of people play around with the patients. They don't want you to get out of that condition because they want to get from you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what literally is happening everywhere. So there is
Yes.
a man named Dr. Matthew. He attended our meeting yesterday. So he asked, because he had me mentioning this, he had me speak about this. He asked me that what should they do? Because the pay is peanut.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how they play around with patients so that they can be able to pay their bills. The government is not paying them enough. Some professionals who were in our meeting yesterday admitted that it happens. They
Mm-hmm.
prevent people from seeing the door. If I know that this is what should be done to you for you to get well, and
Yes.
then I don't want to do that. I don't want to give you that injection. I want to
Yes.
play with sickness to earn more money. So what
Yes.
are the professionals supposed to do if you find yourself that you are compelled to do this, despite the fact that you know it is wrong? That was the question.
This is self-preservation and your ethical oath to do no harm. And this is the problem. This is called a invested interest. This is what the governments have done. This is caused by unethical law. This is it right here. The stipulation that the governments have put on people to say you have to do X, or now you have a person who's in a position where they're going, but if I do the X, then I won't have it. We need to take care of our people, and we're not doing it. I'm going to talk about the pipe dream and what it should be, and then we're going to talk about the reality. So the reality is doctors, teachers, psychologists, your entire culture and society is dependent upon these people doing their job. We have a rule, a law in business. You take care of your legal team and you take care of your finance team. You pay them well and they do a good job.
Yes.
Why doesn't this apply to our teacher, psychologist, doctor? You take care of them. As soon as you don't, it compromises their self-preservation, and now we have a problem. This is a rat's nest of a pickle right now, and this is a problem. Now, that being said, this is what I told Dr. Daniel when he explained his situation. He asked me the same question. I said, give them two options. The first thing you want to do is give them a get better plan. The second one is give them a feel better plan. The get better plan is the one that actually works and is the right answer. The feel better plan is for the people who are looking for their fix of alcohol or drugs. They're the ones who want the attention from the doctor, but they don't want to get better. Now, the flip side of that, what do you do if you're feeling it? What you need to do is be honest with yourself about the line of work you're in and what you're doing. What you really need to be doing is finding a different line of work. This is one of the reasons why I personally don't have an income and why I built Community Gaia, to break this trap. Community Gaia is designed to give people the ability to be taken care of, and we're going to be doing this with our farms so that we can sell and have the business working with our health department. The Mormon Church does this on a global level. They have their nonprofit and their profit, and their for-profit nourishes their nonprofit. I'm doing the same thing. My nonprofit is being nourished by my for-profit. Honor Imagination is the for-profit, and that nourishes the nonprofit. My nonprofit, that is my doctors, my psychologists, my teachers, my cultivators. You got to take care of these people so they can take care of the entire culture. Now, we have two parts to the plan. The first part of the plan is getting this set up and taking care of these people so that the people, as they grow up and nourish, they grow on to be healthy, to be part of the system. Mother Nature, this is the biology of us, already has this balanced out in three parts. Our cultures have two. This is why it's not working. This is called the regulator. By adding the regulator, you add a profit inside of the entire structure so that the profit nourishes the nonprofit to keep the people nourished. The people then break off into three categories. Mother Nature will tell them which one to go with. An educational system will nourish that. And they will either go into cultivation to be taken care of by the people, or they will go over into the working class where they do the farming, where they do the business, where they do the idea generator. And then you have the educator. The educator trains the next group, but you got to have all three of them working together. Teamwork. That's how it's done. You don't have the team and it won't work. And that's what we have right now in our entire global world is there's no teams. Business is over there literally generating its own business for its own business. And the nonprofits are going, well, what do we do? Every business in the world should have a nonprofit that it takes care of. Drop mic. That is one of the things we will be teaching our schools. That is what we will be teaching in the Ashavana program. Is if you are a business owner, you should be running a nonprofit as well. because you're going to need all three to keep that balance and that nourishment. You should have a training educational center. You should have a business for profit, and you should have a nonprofit to nourish others. And once this concept is taught, people will build it. It will be nourished. Because here's the other thing. Now you've got people who can come in and go, oh, I'm being taken care of by this employer. I have a job. I have education. It's all in one. I don't have to go cherry picking and hunting for it, getting scammed in the process. So what do you do personally? Survive for now. Be mindful. Be aware that you have that impulse. Stick to the ethics. Do what is right. If it compromises your pay, problem solve an ethical solution that you can monetize. That is vital. Understand it's going to take a lot. Now, this is where it gets into a personal war with yourself. The ethics in survival. This is dangerous psychologically because this is what leads to compromising your own ethics just so you can survive, and now you feel guilty, which is why the question was asked to begin with, because they're dealing with the guilt. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're indeed dealing with the guilt.
Yeah.
And they also know that what they're doing is not right. It is against the ethic. It is against the oath that they took while they were graduating.
Correct.
And so dealing with the guilt. And I like your response, and that is why I shared with you that parcel of a land that we are going to acquire. It is a very big land that is going to generate a lot of farm produce that surplus are going to be taken to the market to be able to support this project. So that is very excellent.
Now we have another problem that this opens up. That breaks trust. That breaks trust. As people come to realize that doctors and psychologists and teachers have done this, they're not going to trust them anymore. I already have a plan in place to address this. It's going to require a lot of humbling confession on the professionals' parts to go, I was put in a position where I had to survive. I did these things, and I have to make it right now. There's now an option to make it right. I was wrong. I was doing the best that I could. Now, while they are doing their confession on this side and coming clean, I'm going to be working on that psychology on this side, going, they did not know better. There was no other way. This is enslavement. We are all victims. All are punished. And it's okay. It's going to be all right. And we're making it right now. We're doing better. Now we have a way to do it better. This is huge with what we're rolling out.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, so the next question is on Ashavana educational system. And this is teacher Claire. Claire is a kindergarten teacher. She sent her greetings. She looked very excited from the facial appearance yesterday, and also wants to be a teacher in Ashavana. She asked this question, that at some point as a teacher, you realize that the child that you are teaching is not catching anything. If you ask them a question after a minute after you have taught them, it cannot remember anything. So the question is this: how can you cock the memory of a child who is unable to remember anything to be in a position of remembering and doing well in the examination? Because most of them, in other circumstances, this is now is our experience as a teacher. In most cases, some teachers punish the child, cane the child, give a child a punishment that you are not going to go back for lunch. In Africa, when it reaches 1 p.m. every day, the children are released because there is no food in schools. They are released to walk. Some of them are walking 2 kilometers away from school to go and eat at home, and then they resume by 2 p.m. That is 1 hour. You are expected to walk 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers within 1 hour period, eat, and run back to school. So the other punishment they give them, now all the children are going back to home to eat. You are not going to eat today because you have been failing. So how can you make this child to begin to function like other children and pass exam finally? I don't know whether I made some sense.
A child who struggles with memory is a child who is dealing with trauma. They should not be in a learning environment. Under no circumstances should that child be in a learning environment, period. If you are dealing with trauma, you are not ready for learning. You're surviving. You cannot learn while you are surviving. I'm going to say that one again. You cannot learn if you are surviving. Learning is a luxury that you get when you're flourishing. So if the child isn't flourishing, they're not going to learn. Mother Nature won't let them. All of their energy preservation has to go into survival. That child should not be in school. That child, the question I'm asking is, what's going on at home? If she's having that kind of memory issue, there's a home problem.
Yes, the most I didn't ask. She didn't. That question I didn't ask. I'm sorry, but
No, that's that's fine.
according to what I know, in most circumstances, you find that at home there is no peace. There is mother, father, domestic violence. Personally, I experienced this and it affected my performance while I was in lower primary school. My dad, my mom, they were always fighting. And
Yeah.
the very moment my dad would come home, my mom was trembling. When holding a cup like this, the cup will fall. She doesn't even know that the cup fell. So my mother was undergoing serious trauma until she finally passed away. And so when I go to school, I would be number one. And this affected me to a level that I was now from number one to average student.
Yeah.
So in most circumstances, you find that it is what contributes to this is poverty, domestic violence, inability to feed the children. There are people who are having many children, like 4, 5, 6, with no income coming. So most of them are stressed. A parent cannot love the children that is struggling to feed. If you have 4 and you can't feed them, when lately you have they are scrambling, you can't love them. So these are the contributors. And I still want you to expound on this. You have said that a child with trauma is not ready for learning because they are surviving.
Correct.
So the question is this: where should we take them?
For the teacher, this is part 2, and that would answer this. This is it right there, is the first thing we want to do is give them a sanctuary inside the educational system. So you have a child, they don't want to go home, they're having problems at home. This is where I wrote a book called The Salmon of Knowledge, where I break down the 3 spaces of the learning environment. The 3 spaces of the learning environment are the genie bottle, the kindergarten room, and the discovery center. That child that you described would go into the genie bottle. The genie bottle is her safe place to learn how to be psychologically safe. I would get her food and I would become self-resourceful. Ask the other students if they could bring food in for her. This is where Ubuntu, let's get everybody together. What can we do for our self-resources? Does anyone have surplus? I would do that. I would do a project surplus where I would have all the students, if you're able to bring extra for the children who can't go home, please do so. Never punish a child. Never. Get rid of that. Children do not need punishment ever. That is the most destructive thing to a subconscious mind. There is no punishment for a child. Punishment is vengeance. It is not discipline. It is not nourishment. The reason why the child made a mistake is because the conscious mind, the subconscious mind is communicating a problem. The adult doesn't understand. The adult is the problem. Because the adult does not have the education to understand, they lash out, possibly for their own triggers, their own traumas, their own frustrations. Adults should do better. You never punish a child. They don't remember not because they're obstinate or arrogant. They don't remember because they're traumatized, because they're sick. What they need is love, kindness, psychological safety, and nourishment. So forgiveness. This is the biggest mistake that Americans made, and we're all learning about this one right now. If you raise a child without forgiveness, you will raise a child and an adult to not be forgiving. If you raise a child with damnation and judgment, you will raise a child and an adult to be judgmental. If you raise a child without patience, you will have an adult later who doesn't have any patience. That is the real lesson being taught by children from adults. It's the ethics. Again, if you want your child or these children to grow up with forgiveness, they have to be shown forgiveness. It's okay if you don't remember. It's all right. You don't remember, that's okay. That's all right. Is this something you want to do right now? And that's a big one. She probably didn't want to do it, or she got to a point where she was maxed out in her understanding and she was too afraid to say, I've reached my limit of education. I can't take in any more. So she's probably feeling overwhelmed. Based off of her response, it sounds like she shuts down and she's a flopper. This is somebody who completely goes into system failure shutdown and they can't process because she's already overloaded. This is done because she does not have a psychologically safe place to go back to nourishment to recharge her own energy because her home, where she should be doing this, she isn't doing this, which means she's coming to a school drained, without any energy, and in survival mode. She knows she's not going to make it through the day. She knows she's going to get punished. She's already calculated it before she's even woken up that morning. She already knows. She already knows that her whole system isn't working. So by the time she gets to school, she knows she's not going to have any kind of ability to get home. She's going to be worrying about that all day long. Sure enough, she doesn't have the ability to remember. She doesn't remember. Punishment comes. She can't go home. She can't eat. She probably cried quietly inside, going, Yep, I knew this would happen. And then I get to go home afterwards and listen to my mom and dad scream at each other, or be the teacher who stops and says, You need a safe place because you don't have one at home. Some children go to school for learning. Some children go to school because it's the only safe place they've got. Give them the safe place. Give them the safe place. And this is why psychologists can't be emotional.
Yes.
Give them a safe place. Excuse them. Don't make them learn. She will never learn on her own. She'll actually learn another lesson called Teachers Are Mean and Learning is Horrible and I Don't Want It. That's the real lesson she learned that day. She learned to hate education because education starved her. She learned to hate her memory that day. That's the real lesson she learned.
Mm.
So what you want to do in your classroom is have a space where the children who can't learn, don't want to learn, they need to be nourished. It's not about learning. This is where in my book I explain that it switches the modes. It's, I got to teach, I got to teach. No, you got to be the mother that she doesn't have. For you, she's going to be that's the mother she needs. She needs the nourishment. Psychologists, this is why teachers get to be the friend. Well, not the friend, but this is what they need. They need the mother that nourishes. So with some students, you're going to have the mother that nourishes. Now, here's the other problem. You're going to have kids who pick on her saying, oh, you're a teacher's pet. No, this is what she needs. That's what you need. Keep those bullies in check. Those are your third ethics. Keep them in check. They'll go after third ethics go after these children like it's nobody's business. The bullies should not be in school ever. They too need nourishment. And actually what that is them lashing out at this child. They want nourishment, but they're not getting it because they don't think they can ask, because they don't have psychological safety. So you need a psychological safe space and a learning space and a friendship space. Community, discovery, learning, safe place. And the children, there's going to be some children, all they do is go here. That's what they need. That is what they need. So that's how I would set up your classroom if you're able. 3 rooms, 3 spaces, the non-learning space of nourishment and safety, And you don't have to be a bully to get there if that's what they need. If you see a bully going, well, you're the teacher's favorite, or they're picking on the other students, ask the bully, do you also need the safe place?
That's correct. That's good. That is fair enough. Very, very nice. Because this goes with my experience. In January this year, 2025, January on 13th, there is a young girl that I know. This young girl is my neighbor. And the mother, she was crying because she's in Form 3. She doesn't want to go to school because she told me personally that I get nothing in class. Everything 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. But I've told my mom several times that I can do hairdressing. That is my passion. I love it. And even there is one of my neighbor who came there. She had the hair like your hair. Within no minute, it is very well done. But she's being forced to go to school despite the fact that she doesn't want. She doesn't want, she's being forced. And that is why I told her that very soon we are launching a program whereby we are going to take care of you. We are going to pick you. We are going to train you to be a hairdresser, who is also in turn going to teach others whom we are going to deploy. So that is a serious problem in Kenya, whereby young ones are being forced to go through education system, despite the fact that they get nothing, they know nothing. Some of them could not even hold a biro, pen, and write. But they are being punished in school, they are being beaten, they are being stroked. Some of them are being denied opportunity. I've seen parents, my neighbor, denying 4-year-old girl food because she didn't get mathematics correct. Personally, I've seen. And the last, in December, the national examination results were released in Kenya. And there is a lady that performed poorly. She went and hanged herself. Because it is believed that if you perform poorly in national examination, it means that you are a failure. And I like what you have told me today, that Genie Bottle is another, we are going to divide classes in 3, whereby those who are unable to function correct in classes are going to be given the opportunity. We put them in the Genie Bottle, they begin to tell us what they want to be. If they feel that they can be hairdressers, they can be actresses, they can be musicians, we will put piano there, play piano, play drum sets. What do you want? And from here, we are going to nurture very, very many talents. Very, very many talents. I like that. It is fair enough. That was very good.
Thank you.
Now, the next question is, now, I don't know whether you are conversant with Abraham Maslow theory, the self-actualization theory. It is a continuous process of realizing your own unique potential. That is what theory talks about. The ability to realize your own unique potential. That is Abraham Maslow.
Huh. No, I've never heard of it, but I have my own variation of that. Fascinating.
So the question is this. This is from Caleb. Caleb is a psychologist. He attended the meeting yesterday. So he's asking, according to Abraham Maslow, he's saying that there is a stage whereby somebody can realize on himself what is supposed to be, what you want to do, what you want to be doing, self-actualization. I've now realized that I want to be a psychologist. I've realized that I want to be a musician. So the question is this: at what stage, as established psychologist, would you tell me that it's appropriate for a child to realize on what they want to be in future? At what stage?
Oh, this is gorgeous. This is gorgeous.
I will be a footballer. I will be an actress. I will be a hairdresser. At what stage?
Okay, so this is extraordinary because I don't have any of that knowledge. I have the Ashavana ancient Greek side of it. So this is where I get to give you the ancient Greek answer. And now there's two assignments here. First, I'm going to answer the question. But the second quest is going to be you get to compare the ancient Greek answer to the Roman answer, and you get to see how they're the same and how they're different. So this is going to be very, very exciting. Potential and self-realization, becoming its self-awareness, its levels of consciousness. When you gain the level of consciousness, a person is between 4 and 8 years old. That is the truth. Whatever you come up with at 4 to 8 years old, that is who you are. It will never change. It's your dream birth. That is what we call it. It is your moment of dream birth. Your dream birth occurs between 4 and 8 years old. Now, you're that old, there's no question you're going to do it. You're going to do it. This is what you're going to be. And there's no hesitation. There's no doubt. It's the parents and the teachers who say, oh, well, you can't make money that way. Now, first ethics do not have this. First ethics do not yet have it. You have to sample the buffet of all possibility in order to figure out your dream birth. The second ethic is all about discovering your dream birth. That's going out and sampling everything. The fourth ethic, that's where you start to decide, okay, so it's around the third to fourth ethic that you develop your dream birth. Now, if you never develop into the second ethic, then you're never going to get there. So there's going to be some children who never have their dream birth. And the reason why is because they never sampled enough of the buffet. We see this a lot in America where they go, well, I don't know what I want to be. I never had any dreams. They never went through their dream birth because they got stuck in first ethic. You do not get to your dream birth until you know how to self-nourish and you know how to be self-authoritative. So you have to finish the first and the second ethic in order to activate your dream birth. Now, once you get your dream birth, no doubt you do it. I was this way. No doubt I did it. Now, my parents came in and told me you can't do that. A lot of people do that. You can't do that. Now, I was sneaky. I did the whole, oh, yes, I can. I'll just do it in secret. So I did all of mine in secret. I wanted to be a physicist. So I took piano, which was physics. And I also wanted to do theater, acting, stage. By the time I was 8, I had made up my mind I was going to be a journalist. And when my parents told me no, I had so much self-authority that I'm like, no, I'm doing it on my own. This is why you need self-authority. So this is where you have the dream birth, but you can't, this is where parents and adults need to nourish dream birth. Now, second part of this answer. I just made it to the 73rd ethical level of consciousness at the point of full potential. I am finally at my full potential, but I'm an apprentice of full potential. I get the next 36 levels of consciousness that are going to train me to become a master of my full potential. When I got to the 36th ethical perspective stage, I was not anywhere near, I didn't even know what my full potential was. This is something I've told you, Jared, with the 4 dreams. You have 4 dreams. Dream A is the dream that we think about at dream birth. Dream B is the one we downgrade to think we can do this because we have self-doubt. And then all of us do dream D, which is what our parents want us to do. After X amount of time, we realize that this is terrible. So we do for dream C. We do dream C, which is what we want to do. It's just not what our parents want to do, but we think we can eat here. This is where a lot of us are, is dream C. Then after you reach a certain breaking point, you finally go to dream B. You say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all the way and I'm going to do my dream B. But you're not being honest with yourself. Dream B is what you think you can do. Dream A is what you really want to do. So you get to dream A. You finally do dream A. You can't believe it. And then it activates dream 0, the real thing. This is what you don't even know is here until you get here. So a teachers must know this, teachers and parents. Your goal is to get your child to dream A so they can activate dream 0. When and how, more data required. We don't know yet. It took me a year. It took me a year of doing Dream A, less than that, to activate my Dream Zero. You've got to do Dream A. Now, Community Gaia is built to do nothing but get you to Dream A. We have a whole plan. It's a plan. So people come in, what do you want to be when you grow up? No matter what they say, we're going to tell them, okay, now what do you really want to do? Because there's a good chance they're going to tell us crap answers. Now, what do you really want to do? Now, they're going to give us one of two answers. I don't know. They never had the dream birth. The other people will say, well, I've always wanted to do this, but that's what we're here for. We get you to Dream A. We want them on Dream A. Now, we're going to get them to Dream A, and we probably know we actually got Dream B. We know that. So we send them over and we're going to go, all right. They're not going to believe it. They're going to go, wait, what? We do this now. We are doing it right now. You are already in it. So you have it. You're part of it. You're doing Dream B, but then you start to get comfortable and then you blossom into Dream A. Or you're in Dream A and then you have your true Dream Zero. That's where we want to get you. That's your potential. That is your potential. That is what a teacher is supposed to do. That is what a parent is supposed to be doing. 4 years old, they know what they want. Carl Jung said that. Carl Jung said that the personality was already determined by the time the child was 4 to 8 years old. He was right. 4 to 8 years old, they know what they want, and it never changes. I have no idea how that measures up to the Roman answer. I have no idea. I don't even know how it's spelled. You called it the what was this called?
Abraham Maslow.
Abraham Maslow. Okay, yeah, he was a psychologist. Abraham Maslow.
MAOW.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. Thank you. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah,
that from Salman. Salman is a Muslim. So we have very many groups of Salman is a Muslim, and he says he's a psychologist also. He told me about a psychologist that I'm also due to find out. I didn't have time. It's called William James. William James talks about emotions. So he says, connect with the theory of emotions by William James. How does the mind, how does the mind-body connection affect our emotion? Mind-body connection affects our emotions, because he says, Salman says that every time his wife is in the menses, she is very moody. Is menses also mental illness?
no.
So why is it that
What the Menzies does, this is the way I've always explained it, is it is an augmenter. It modifies what's already there. Inhibitions are down. You see the truth. The Menzies are the time where you get to see the truth. She is logical. She's holding herself together with logic. But during the Menzies, the logic breaks down because the emotions are turned up. The emotions are already there. She's just been using logic to hide them. I did this. During the time of the month, when the logic is overpowered by the amount of hormone, the hormone augments what's already there, and you get to see the truth. So for a woman, we know I'm not moody. This is my truth. I'm just being more honest than I normally am. And then after the hormones calm down, they can box themselves back up with logic and they can wear the mask again. So you're wearing a mask as a woman, but during the hormonal time period, you take off the mask and you say, this is my truth. That's the time when men usually say to women, oh, you're just moody. Now our truth is being invalidated. No, this is who I really am. However, what's happening is if you're mentally ill, then your Menzies is going to augment mental ill. Moodiness, bipolar, same thing, is when you have two perspectives. You have your logical perspective with your cognitive core, and mental illness creates an offshoot. And now you've got two logical perspectives. One goes this way, one goes this way. Now, a man cannot serve two masters. So what ends up happening is you toggle based upon the situation you're in, which is safer. So you'll be on your truth perspective, the one you really are, and then someone you're not feeling safe around kicks in and you jump to the safe one. Every one of these is a mask. Psychologists have called this multiple personality disorder also. This is not multiple personality. This is literally two perspectives jumping back and forth to each other. So that's what you see during moodiness or bipolar, is literally whichever one is being activated. So trauma teaches us that this is the logical sequence to keep us safe around a husband. This one is a logical sequence that keeps us safe around a teacher. This one is the one that we use when we're alone. So now we will be feeling pretty good. Our husbands will come around us, and then something will trigger us, a word, an action. Our self-preservation will say, nope, got to jump ship, and we jump here. We'll be on this one for a while, and then a trigger will happen, and we'll jump ship and come down here. And then when we feel safe again, we'll go back up here. This is moodiness. That is inside of narcissism as well, borderline personality disorder, PTSD, all of it. It's the same thing. All of it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The triggers are different. How is different. The emotions are the triggers in multiple personality disorder. The words are the triggers in PTSD. The emotional states and the situations are the triggers in narcissism and borderline personality disorder. So in Menzies, if she's healthy, there's no mood swings, none. She's the same person no matter what. She has a mental illness that she's using a mask to cover to keep away from everything. And when she's on her period, it doesn't, the logic goes away. So she can't logically self-preserve. She also, during Menzies, because the logic is there to self-preserve, the logical system is 100% the self-preservation system. That's what it uses. It also allows the emotional fluidity. So her emotional fluidity is going through at full throttle. And because her emotions have been ignored up to that point, it turns on.
Right. Fair enough. That's good. And we're still in a Shavana school-related questions. And this other question was Meresa. Meresa is not psychologist. She just wants to work with us in any area where you are going to deploy her. She will be very, very happy to be part and parcel of this. She asked this question that according to what we are intending to do, it looks perfect. And despite the fact that she's not educated, she can sense that this is an eye-opener. And being that it is perfect and it looks good, everybody, and when I tell you everybody, I mean it, everybody would want to come. All the children in Eldoret City will be brought to a Shavana school. So what criteria are we going to deploy so that we take a minimum number that we can sustain? That is
Yep. Yeah, that is already in plan. We are basically going to be reaching a capacity, and as soon as we reach a capacity, I have a mathematical trigger set in place so that once we hit that trigger, it's going to launch the next program, launch the next facility that we will then build to take that spillover. Those are going to be our hubs that go in effect around it. Every one of them has a capacity metric. This is part of my Toyota stat, where as soon as a certain point in the Toyota stat is hit, it's going to activate and trigger the next phase. I have tons of these all over the program. That way we can make sure that we never are out of capacity, that everything stays balanced. And I'm also going to be using my Toyota stat to measure the capacity of per adult to patient ratio. Very excited about this. And I
That's
got to
good.
use my word Toyota stat.
Indeed, that is good. That is good. And, I really like that because this is also going to give us a room
Mhm.
to be able to sustain the ones that we have taken in a very professional and appropriate manner
Mhm.
in terms of being able to be provided for.
Yes,
So we push them and then we roll out another program.
yes.
And then we check in our first program what was not correct, what was amiss. And when we launch another program, then we can't transfer the miss to the next program. So
No,
that is
we are constantly going to be evolving it. That's what the Toyota stat does, is it is constantly going to be measuring everything and addressing all the bugs as they come up. That way we can go, okay, this is, for instance, all of these questions are going to be added to a Q&A. That way, when the next group comes in, we can go, here's the Q&A, and we'll go through them. So it rolls over into the next training. And then we will be able to accumulate these things, these questions, and we'll be able to put the questions into a book. And that is going to be a book for the Q&A. So then this book, the Q&A book, is going to be added to the curriculum when people come in. Okay, here's the manual, here's the 12 ethics, now here's the Q&A book. So people are going to have to read the Q&A book. Every time someone has more questions, they will run out of questions, but they're going to be required to read the Q&A book for their training. And that will literally address all the problems. And we use the Toyota stat to measure any problems going forward. And then we take those problems over to Lab QED. We address the problems, we correct them immediately, and then we put them into the solutions, into the educational program to trickle down into the system. Then we have a networking community that's inside the system monitoring it for data. That data comes back to Lab QED, and it tells us over a period of 90 days how that data was received and if the problem was resolved. The Toyota stat.
that's good. Excellent. And the next question, I have a child who doesn't get anything in class. This looks like the previous question that we have handled. I have a child. I have a child who doesn't get anything in class. He gets position last in African system, especially in Kenya to be precise. Each and every closing day in schools, the children are graded. They say so and so, you are number one, best performed, so and so, you are number two, so and so, you are number three, and so, you are number last. So, can we shame the number last? And then they say that this is now like a machete. You know machete?
No.
A knife.
Oh, okay.
This is a knife. Can you put a knife in fire? And then we are putting a knife in fire. Then position last. Can you burn the position last? And then they say that they are burning your cheek. They are doing like this. They are shaming the position last. So she's saying that my child gets nothing in class. He doesn't want to go to school. His passion, his interest is to be a footballer. And the man that is, I'm framing his question, it has a lot of sentences. This man personally is a football coach. In US, you call it soccer. You know soccer?
I know soccer, yes.
So he's saying that the child loves football, loves soccer so much. Can we have a Shavana football club
Yes.
that is tech? Because we have uncountable talents, people who wants to play
Let me tell you about Aristotle.
football club.
Aristotle had a peripatetic school. He loved and believed so strongly in the sports and the athleticism that he took his philosophy school into the Lyceum where they trained the athletes, and he taught philosophy in the literal, in the athletic space. It was mandatory. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sports are important. I want to ask the question, why are the children being branded for humility purposes?
Now, you know what is a mess? What is a mess? Sorry. It is a mess, but most of teachers don't know that it is a mess.
They don't know it's being, they don't know.
Because you think that if you are ashamed this term, for example, you are in grade 4. If we have 3 terms each and every year, now the first term, second term, and third term. So third term, if you perform well, while I was in lower primary, the grading was, if you get everything correct, it means that you have scored 500 marks. That means everything you have scored 100, 500 marks. And so the person who is deemed to have passed is anybody who has gotten 250 and above. So if you score less than 250, you are compelled to repeat grade 4. You're not crossing to grade 5.
Oh, I
And
understand.
so
I understand. Okay.
there's a perception that if you did not pass and you are punished to repeat grade 4 and you are ashamed during the closing day, then you will try to perform better so that you are not ashamed, of which that is the perception, but it is a mess. You understand now?
I do understand. Yes, that is not how you motivate human beings.
To trigger the child to work hard to perform better the next closing day. But it doesn't give result in this case because this man is saying every day his son is number last. He has deployed everything within his purview, but is still number last. And that is why he is advocating that we have a professional football club, that is Ashavana FC football club, that is going to children to realize their dream outside their academic curriculum. And that is why you told me about Genie Bottle. From Genie Bottle, we are going to trim them to the direction that they want. So that is why I said it is identical to the question that we have just tackled.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. However, that is not how you motivate someone to do better. Not at all. The children who are motivated to do better, that it works for, have been terrorized with fear. And they've actually been caused mental illness that is not seen yet. That results in fear of failure, fear of making a mistake, perfectionism. These are severe mental illnesses that develop later on. So even if it does work, it's actually all it's doing is mentally damaging the child. There is too much substantial evidence that proves grading is wrong. The ancient Greeks don't use grading. We use apprentice, tradesman, master, wizard, and ashavana. And if you don't know how to use this system, this is what the grading system is. The grading system was created by John D. Rockefeller to grade human people like meat, literally. And it was to communicate to the employers what grade meat they were based off of their performance. That's why we have a grading system. Grading system is inhumane. It's not at all education. It is, I'm just going to walk away from my opinion on John D. Rockefeller. That being said, being able to measure a person's skills is a personal thing. It is not something that we should ever aspire to or do. And a person has to choose to become a master of something. This is why school has to be free to choose. If you choose to be a master at something, it's not up to us to decide what your mastery will be in. If that child wants to be a master of football, then football it is. Now, when he's in school prior to the dream birth, and also shortly thereafter the dream birth, What really needs to be taught is how all of the disciplines actually are the same discipline. The discipline is you. You are the self-discipline. And the self-discipline is the science of all of these other disciplines. That boy is a soccer player. He's an apprentice or a tradesman or a master, but he is a soccer player. He's a football player. That is him. Now, if he gets into physics, he really should get into physics because physics and football really go hand in hand. That's going to do a lot for him. And that's it. He needs to learn he needs to learn physics through the football. He needs to learn math through football. That's how he understands it. That might be why he's not learning anything, is because he has to translate it into football. I am not a sports person. I have no data on this, but where sports people would fall into this lineup, that would be under dance. That would be under dance, body, and the body arts. So I would put that under the same category as ballet. Instead of learning ballet, he would have learned football. He would have learned football. So that would have been the third ethical discipline. Absolutely, the third ethical discipline. So he would have learned music, and then he would have learned art and painting. Not even, he would have learned football. And that's his passion. Now, this is where people don't understand the disciplines. The arts, the communications, and the sciences are not competing with each other. Every discipline has all three inside of them. So music has the art of music, the story of music, and the science of music. Physics has the art of physics, it's music, the story of physics, and the science of physics. Football has the art, the story, the science. So that's his journey. That's where his story goes. He goes toward that story. But as he goes towards that story, he's going to learn art. He's going to learn story, and then he's going to learn the science of football. And that is how he's going to learn it. Absolutely let him do football. Yes, we are definitely doing a football league. Absolutely. That's how they learn. They must have it. So let's assume for a moment that the Ashavana school is already set up. I would have had him learning about how every discipline has the art, the story, and the science inside of it. And that as he descends into the dissection of football, he would have found the sciences. But he has to be allowed to go into the journey. That is the story. It's the journey itself. And that's where he would have been nourished. Now, the more stories, the more disciplines you adopt, the more you will work on it, the more it will enhance and modify your discipline. So football is parallel to music. It's parallel over to theater and stage. Theater and stage is teamwork. That's what we learn from theater and stage. Now, whether or not he wants to pick those up, that's up to him. But it will help his football. Football is how he understands the world. That's how he translates everything. So theater and stage for football, music for football. Oh, absolutely. That's where he would understand it. This is what teachers need to be teaching. First, find your core discipline. What is your core discipline? My core discipline was theater stage. And then I switched my core discipline over to logic. And then everything had to be, how is this story? How is this logic? And then I was able to find all the disciplines by turning it into logic. Every one of us is this way. So absolutely, we must end the grading system and go back to apprentice, tradesman, master. And that is just the level of descent into your discipline. And that's where the child has to choose that journey. And if you have mental illness, it's going to interrupt that journey. So then it's okay, the journey's been interrupted. Let's nourish the child. Let's get that genie bottle back. And when the child is ready, the child will return to the journey.
Yes, indeed. The grading system has caused a lot of pain to
Yeah.
very many parents.
Yeah.
While I was a lecturer in the university, we had a lot of challenges in regards to this. The principal, who was my boss by then, wanted us to grade the children. I mean, grade the students. and also compel some to repeat. And you know, the very moment you are repeating in a college, it means that you are going to pay double.
Yeah.
So it is not necessary.
It
And
is
we have
not.
seen very many people committing suicide. As a parent, also, some parents are saying that I've schooled you all this time and you come with grade D, grade E, that is the poorest grade in Kenyan system. So when the parent says that you have just consumed my money in school and after all you bring me the poorest grade, then you are useless, you are nothing. And after saying all these words, some of them would go and commit suicide. That was the common case in the last examination results here in Kenya. And I love what you have said, that in a Shavana school, we are going to do away with this. And we are also, I also want us, I would love that we also create a platform of education, of educating, of sensitization of the community on dangers of grading system. Because this is causing pain, it is discriminatory in nature, and whenever you see discrimination, there is mental illness are bound to be involved. And so this is very dangerous, and I can't agree more. I can't agree more with you. And it is something that we are going to do anything within ourselves, within our capacity to change.
Yeah,
And so
this
that,
very much, we need to sort out our priorities. And that's what this comes right down to, is we need to really take a step back and rethink our priorities. Grades are not more important than human life. Grades are not more important than happiness and education, or I'm sorry, happiness
yes,
in their lives.
yes, but we have a problem because most, especially in Africa, life is very hard. The level of poverty is very high. People are struggling. Every day, if you open a national television, you will hear people who have killed themselves because life has become hard. Very many, uncountable. And the only escape route to poverty is going to school. So if it happens that your brain cannot catch what is taught in classes, then you are deemed as a poor man.
Wow.
There is no escape route for you. You see, that is where the problem comes.
I need a
because
minute. I just, this is very different from American culture.
The escape route is only school. If you don't go to school, you are as equal as dead. So that is why it is between a matter of life and death. So I want us to completely eliminate this thing in Kenya.
Yeah, grades need to go away. In America, they don't make the connection that poverty equals uneducation. They haven't figured that out in America. They actually, the poor people hate education and throw it away. That's the problem we have in America. They hate education here. They think it's unnecessary, and they don't think it's they don't think it's needed. Yeah.
In Africa, it is very opposite because
Yeah. So to hear this, I'm going, it's horrible, the suicides. And I can see where parents are going, self-preservation, I want you to live, please do good. But that comes out, you're worthless, and the child kills themselves. Horrible, horrible. And you have a lot of good hope there for you. You are so far ahead of the United States. This is so good. It means that this is going to be very easily fixable, so much more fixable than what we're up against in the United States. In the United States, they find no value in what I have. None. This makes sense. I was trying to figure out how I was able to get into Africa. And I'm going, because of that psychology, you guys have figured out that education is the answer to poverty. Yes, it is. This is extraordinary news. This is wonderful.
Yes,
So yeah,
that is what.
but we just have to tweak your system. All we have to do is tweak the system. That's it. This is so much easier because we don't have the core obstacle in America that I've been pushing against. So the road for me just got a lot easier for me. because I thought I had this obstacle and I don't. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be so much easier for me. So what this means is we just need to upgrade the system. There you go. Just upgrade the system. Get rid of grades. Get those 3 Genie Bottle, kindergarten room, and Discovery Center. Get them in there. If the child, let the child lead. The child is going to tell you. I have my book, Salmon of Knowledge. I was actually editing it all day yesterday, and it breaks down the entire Ashavana and mathematical pathway of learning and how it's supposed to look. It includes the genius curriculum that my mother put me on. So between all of that, oh yes, get rid of the grading system. And then I teach you how to do the tradesman, the apprentice tradesman master skill setting. And then I teach you the math on how to measure a person's education. So you can actually measure your own education properly. So you don't have to grade. You're either an apprentice, you're a tradesman, or you're a master. And then I give you the nutritional nuggets. These are the anchors, the knowledge anchors, so that your subconscious mind, when they get the knowledge anchors, it weaves its own common sense. And I know which points to give you. And every discipline is the same. So you go in, you get the knowledge, you click it in, and then there's a compatibility with all the disciplines. So when you connect this discipline with this discipline, they work together, and then it fills in all the disciplines that you have in the gap. It's beautiful. And that's what we're building. So no more punishment, no punishment. Loving, nourishing environment. The teacher's job is to build a psychologically safe learning environment. That is their job, nothing else. Mother Nature takes care of their natural learning. They already are born with it. No grading and no punishment. If the child doesn't want to learn, they don't have to. Freedom above all else. And that teaches the child, I'm safe. If you take freedom away from a child or from any human being, it all becomes about the freedom of pursuit. If they're not free, I got to get free. You take that away and that's all they think about. It's no longer about learning. It's about freedom, getting your freedom back. Now you have a power dynamic. And the only way to break a power dynamic is by freeing the children. So free the children. The teacher must become a student of the child. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say, Jared, you and I had known each other when you were a child. I come in as your teacher. I am now a student of Jared, as in my job is to learn the science of Jared. I don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. You're 4 years old. So now we're going to discover who Jared is. Jared is the subject. Jared is the discipline. Now you got to have tools to figure out who Jared is. Well, here's math. Here's music. Here's pianos. Here's psychology. Which ones do you like? I have to now, as the teacher, I have to figure out what your core language is. And then I have to figure out what your core vocation is so you know how to translate. So you say psychology, and I go, okay, now I got your language. You are a communicator, you are a storyteller, and you are also psychology. So I have to give those 2 things to you. Now I'm going to show you how everything in the world revolves around psychology and story. That's how you're going to learn. Now, every child who comes in has to go through that process. So, and it must be done in a playful, safe, fun setting. That's why we have pirates and mermaids where I come from. It's going to be awesome. And then by giving them the fantasy that ignites their mind, they learn one valuable lesson. Learning is fun. This is the lesson they need to learn. Learning is fun. That way
Yes.
they'll run to school and go, yes, please, because learning is fun. You got to make it fun. That way they keep coming back. They want to do it. And they already are doing it. Now you got the children who have to go to war when they go home. Those are your children where you bring them in and you give them that safety. I learned the lesson that home is bad, but school is safe. And I learned that in these books and in the world of learning, I was going to be okay. So I became addicted to knowledge and education because I knew the answers that I needed to get safe were going to be in those books. It took me 40 years, but I did it because knowledge is safe. And because I developed that association with education and knowledge is fun and safe because of Plato, because of the system, it was positive reaffirmation, no punishment necessary. positive reaffirmation. That is the reward system you want. Our psychology is hardwired for this reward system.
Yes, yes, yes. That would work. That would work, I believe. And indeed, we have been experiencing a lot of challenges in regards to curriculum. And the plan that you have is almost solving every problem, solving the problem. And I believe we are going to do exactly what we have put in place. Now, the next question is from a teacher Susan. Susan is a principal in a local school here. She is a very established teacher, very experienced, very qualified. And I don't know what you will say, but according to my assessment, I believe that she should be the principal of the school. Going with with her qualifications, she is very qualified, very eloquent, very ethical. She says that according to what is being said in regards to a Shavana educational system, they completely resonate with my personality. And personally, I would love to work in a Shavana school.
Yes.
And currently I am employed, and I would like to be able to submit my resignation from my local employer now to be able to shift to Ashavana, but it is required by law that I submit my resignation 3 months in prior. So I need direction. When is the appropriate time to do so, to be able to?
I love her. I love her. She's like, I'm going to be putting in my resignation. You are hiring me. I love her. Yes. Yes. I love her.
That is why I told you that there were very many we could not move because they have a lot of
Tell
questions.
her that we will absolutely hired. Yes. We officially have a principal for our school. When the building construction begins, we will let her know and we will keep her posted on the development of the program. So when we get to that point, 100%, we will be notifying her when we are at the 3-month marker of opening. Yes, 100%. Oh my God, I love her. When should I put my resignation to come work for you?
Yes.
I love opportunists. I love ethical opportunists.
So next, sometimes when we were talking, I remember this was the first day we spoke with you. You told me, this is what I was sharing in regards to a Shavana educational system. You told me that we have 3 problems. We have 3 problems. That is, number 1 is lack of education and learning of high quality. Number 2, ethical education. And number 3, you told me communication skills and
Yes.
education. Those are the 3 problems that you told me that we have.
Yes.
And in a nutshell, this is what Ashavana intends to solve when it shall finally roll. So what are we going to put in place to make sure that we achieve the 3 problems what are we going to put in place to make sure that the 3 problems, the 3 challenges are once and for all sorted out in Kenya?
The 4th piece
came from also Susan, teacher Susan, the same person.
Okay. The other part of all of this is an education on education. I know it sounds weird, but this is it right here. When you begin an education, the very first thing you need to be taught is why you have an education. And it's in that education of education. This is called the exoteric instruction. When you begin education, you are given, I'm sorry, I'm speaking in past tense, ancient Greek. We were given the exoteric instruction. Exoteric instruction is when you are given the overview of why you learn, the stages of learning, and all of the process, the milestones. You are given the map, the educational map, and the why of learning. Then you are taught what you are learning and why you have to learn those things. This does not, no educational system has this at the moment. So children go there and they're taught in American schools, this is what we saw. You get in there and they're like, are you ready to have fun? And you have no idea why you're there. You're like, okay, well, we're here to learn. Why? Why do I need to learn? For 12 years, this goes unanswered. Around second grade to around sixth grade, the kids start to figure it out. Why am I here? Why am I here? And we start to ask the teachers. I had a lot of fun with this. When I was a kid, I was that kid. Why am I here? Why do I have to learn? It got to a point where every class began with all 30 of us asking every teacher, every class, why are we here? Why do we have to learn this? Why? What is this? And we got this because the law says so. I don't know. Well, it's complicated. And we did this for 4 years. After a while, the kids stopped asking. I went home. We all did. We all asked our parents, why do I have to learn this? Do you learn it? Do you learn it? And every one of our parents went, no, we didn't learn it. We didn't learn it. I was studying Thomas Sowell. I was studying philosophy. I was observing the questions, going, why do we have to learn it? Then I had kids of my own, and I watched the same thing happen with my kids. I sat down with my kids and I said to them, you have to learn so you're not poor. You have to learn so you can problem solve. You have to learn so you know how to manage your brain. Now, the school system that you're walking into legally tells you you have to go there. But I do things differently. They don't teach you philosophy, I'll be teaching you philosophy. They don't teach you logic, I'll be teaching you logic. So I taught my children philosophy and logic. Then I watched my children get frustrated and they came back and they said, 12 years old, all 3 of them did the same thing. I asked them, Mom, I asked them, why do I have to? And they couldn't tell me what they're doing. They don't even know what math is for. Yup, that's right. It was extraordinary. Every 12-year-old starts to figure it out. Why aren't we telling this stuff to children? I got the answer. It's because they don't know. Teachers don't know. They have no idea what the disciplines do. Now, I'm going to be blunt. It took me 30 years of educational science to figure out what the disciplines do. The disciplines teach you one life skill per discipline. Music teaches you progression, how to move through a story, and you're living in a story. Art teaches you perspective so you can switch your mind around, so you can see things from a different point of view. You don't learn art and you're going to have a closed, prejudiced point of view. You don't learn dance and you don't learn what your body can do. You don't learn sports and you don't learn what your body can do. You don't learn physics if you don't do sports. You don't learn physics if you don't throw a ball. You don't do theater and stage, you don't understand human chemistry. You don't understand how to do teamwork if you don't build a theater and stage. You're learning teamwork. If you don't write a book and if you don't read books, then you don't know how to transfer story logically from point A to point B. Guess what? You can't human connect. Every discipline teaches us one skill, and there are 12 disciplines. Each one of them is a subgenre. So as you go through these disciplines, you're learning one core skill with 3 subgenres to that skill. And those skills interact with each other like a web. And then you become a superhuman. You really do. And it unlocks parts of your mind in strategic order that you never even thought you had. Suddenly you have the ability to see things and do things on a compounded way. And now solving problems, you prevent problems. It doesn't just prevent poverty, it literally allows you to navigate life. So the answer to the question, we're going to teach them about education right off. That's the very first lesson. Why they are there, why they have to learn this stuff. And we're going to be doing nothing but the very first year. It's why. That's all kindergarten is. Why you have to be there, what you're learning, why you have to learn it, what the disciplines do. It's a buffet table of all the disciplines. And that's all you do for 12 years. Up to 12 years old, that's all you should be learning is what education is. While you're learning that, you're learning the ethics, the communication skills, and you're learning, what was the other one I said? It was ethical communication. It was ethics, communication.
Yes, you said communication skills. Number one, you said lack of education and learning of high quality.
Oh,
Number two, ethical education. And number three, communication skills and education.
yes, it was quality that I had forgotten. Quality, which ironically is the most important of all. Quality is the patience and the preservation of the entire journey. And that is it right there. So the first 12 years of education should be about education and you. So that when the child hits 12 years old, they know, oh, well, the answer is always going to be in education. You don't know how to do something, you go get educated. And that right there, that is the whole point. That is why we're different. That is how we're going to be different. That is what we are building to be different, is this course, education of education. On
Yes,
communication,
yes.
theater, stage, reading, writing, logic, linguistics. That is what teaches communication skills.
All right. That's fair enough. That's good. And now the next one is now on community Gaia rehabilitation. Those we were handling, the ones that are related to Shavana School. So we are shifting to the ones that are related to community Gaia rehabilitation center. Now, I was, one of them asked me that, why are you people wanting to do like rehabilitation center where people who are mentally ill, they are being brought, they are nourished, they are then integrated back into the community once they get healed. And I use you as a case study, the way I usually tell you that some of the stories that you tell me, I'm going to use them to encourage other people, to show them that it is possible, that despite the challenge, the condition, you can still arise. You can still get out of the situation. So I was using your case, what you shared with me, that by 2015, at age 35, you are not aware that you had a child. And you only realized when you came out in 2023 is when you knew. I don't know whether I got you correct.
The dates,
And
the dates.
you told me of that nature.
Yeah.
So when I was discussing with them this, one of them was very emotional. There is a lady by the name Maggie. Maggie was very emotional. She was crying, saying that she is also undergoing the similar experience. And so she asked me that with her, she has not come out. And she asked me that, how did Anna felt when you finally realized that in 2023? And how did you come out? Can you help her also to get out? Because she's suffering, she is mentally disturbed, she's been crying, there's nobody who can help her. And so, what did you feel? How did you feel finally when you now, your eyes were open and you knew the fact that you had a child at that later age?
I wrote the book Breaking Delusion, and that broke it. That was all of it. I will summarize. The first part of that was I had to learn how to love all of myself, all the parts of myself. I had to learn how to work with myself as a team. that was from the point of realizing that I had multiple personality disorder and the date for that was April 2022. That's when I found out I had multiple personality disorder. I was diagnosed with it, as I later found out, in 2015. In April 2022, my alter wrote my partner a letter. And I had 3 or 4 days of sheer terror of myself because I didn't know who these people were who had my body. And that was a process. I detail the entire process in Breaking Delusion. It was 2nd of April, 2023. I was in a horrible situation that day, and I realized my alters were arguing. I had imagination. Well, imagination. I was arguing with Joanna. No, with Colin. I was arguing with Colin. The two of us were arguing. And then Joanna started arguing. So the three of us were arguing. And in the middle of it, I realized the alters are the ones who caused the problem. That if the alters worked, then I never would have been traumatized to begin with. And that's when I realized I can do a better job at taking care of me than they could. Gone instantly. I knew that I didn't need them anymore. I loved them. I love them. And I honor them. That's why I am a we, us, them. I honor them. But I'm in charge. I haven't heard a voice since. And the moment I realized, the moment they went away and everything was gone, their memories integrated. And it took a few days. It took a while to integrate all of their memories together. As their memories integrated together, though, before that point, I saw that I had children. They weren't mine. They were Joanna's. And I was concerned for them. I didn't want to create a panic. So I called my boyfriend, talked to him about it, and we waited for my memories to kind of come back as far as integrate, but that took time. And I did a whole lot of doing my best to pretend that there was no gap in memory, but that was hard. My biggest concern was protecting the psychology of my daughter. She was a victim in all of this. And I went through a period where I hated all of it because I didn't choose it. I didn't choose any of it. Joanna did. And Joanna chose it out of mental illness. And what I had to do was I had to learn that this was my life. And that even though I didn't choose it, it was mine. The conversation I had with Joanna was the day she asked me, am I even real? She asked me if I was even real. And all I could think about was, excuse me, every fucking psychologist, every philosopher, every ontologist who argued what real and fiction and nonfiction were. And I saw all of the philosophy of all of the world with everybody's stupid little opinion. And not one of those persons ever sat down and held their altar in their arm, crying with them, going, am I real? Did I not just live 32 years? Am I nothing because I was a mental illness? And I knew that if I did not deliver the proper logical sequence that made sense, that was 100% true, she would never, the mental illness would never solve. I knew right there was my breaking point. And the only way to go from mental ill to where I am now was one logical fallacy. Reality is everything. Everything is real. There is no fiction. I'm an author. Every one of my books that I wrote that was fiction, jokes on all the readers, it wasn't fiction. It was me. It was a personification of me. And just because it was in the abstract in my head doesn't mean it wasn't real. And that's when I questioned what is reality. And when I questioned what is reality as an ontological physicist, that's when I realized all of this, everything, the all of everything at every level, it takes all of it together to be matter. All of it. You take one imagined fantasy away from this, and it's no longer what it is. It takes all of us. All of it is real. There's no such thing as non-real. There's no such thing as anything. It's all true. We are living imagination.
Mm.
And when I realized that Joanna is real, she lived for 32 years in my body. She mattered. She was matter. That's what matter is, to have mass. And just because we don't understand it on a meta level does not mean it's not real. The quantum level exists, the logos level exists. So how did I do it? I learned to love all of me, not just all the parts of me. I learned to love my second ethical perspective self, my third ethical perspective self, my fourth, my fifth, my sixth, my first ethical perspective self. I learned to hate my fear, love my fear self. I learned how to love my self-preservation self. And I learned how to work with a team with all of it. You can't be prejudiced to the self, not on any level. And the reason why a person is so torn up in their head is because they are living in a civil war inside their head. You have to learn how to love all of you and then integrate with them, because you don't need to be divided to be whole. Yeah.
That is a bit emotional, but that is a bit emotional.
I to this day, I have people asking me, are you real? And I'm just like, do you have any idea how hurtful that statement is?
Mm. Okay, the next one. I am in marriage and I can't stand it any longer. Being forced to have sex anytime the man wishes and have no objection at times. I feel pain with no place to report to. Please allow me into your facility. Around my back are with the burned cigarette wounds from the man, inserting bottle in my private part, and also I have STI and HIV infected. My two kids, one is 4 years old, that is a girl, and 4 months old, a boy. Please allow me in your facility. This one, we were doing, some of people who did not want their names to be mentioned, they wrote their questions in a paper and presented. So like this one, is the name is not known, but that is what she's going through, and she didn't want her case to be displayed, and that is why this question is private, and that is what she's going through. I do believe that she thinks that the institution, the facility has been established, but it is not yet. So that is what. So you can just respond to that if you can.
You would need a full extraction. I've done 6 of them. Extractions are dangerous, and we can't guarantee to get the children out. I do not know the situation there legally. In America, I'm going to answer as an American. How I would handle that is immediately come up with a backup plan. Make plans to remove the children and her overnight or when he's gone, and do not let him know. And then it's intend to start your life over, plan to leave everything behind, and expect to lose one or two of the children in the process. That is a possibility. Get out. And there's going to be 3 stages. The first stage is going to be the severe relief breakdown. The second is guilt, and then self-doubt, self-questioning, and then the return. And then the third is realizing I can't do it on my own. I can't save myself. That's when they go back. Always. If you can get through these 3 stages, you're out, but you got to pass through all 3 stages. The first stage is going to be the shock, and that takes about 30 days. I remember when I got out of mine, my former owner had a severe hatred trigger, PTSD trigger of odor. So if he smelled anything, I didn't realize it. It sent him into a rage. But when I was living alone right after my extraction, my brother had made a comment about there being a smell in the fridge. Boom, we leapt into action. My daughter executed. She prepared the door opening up. She then got the dishwasher starting up. My son took it out, dumped it, immediately ran it outside, and I was scrubbing the dish. Choreographed perfectly. And then I realized the amount of terror we had been living in, to the point where we choreographed eliminating the odor before the husband found out. That was my breaking point. That was stage 1. That's when I realized how bad it really was. Then there was the guilt and the betrayal. I lost my daughter in that extraction, my oldest. And I went, oh my God, I'm a bad mother. Oh my God, this is the severity. Oh my God, this is what my children were exposed to. I'm such a horrible person. Oh my God. And it was this constant guilt. I left my partner alone. I left all of it. And then there was a feeling like I couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't do any of it on my own. And what saved me was looking at my children and going, if I go back, what would it do to them? So to save my children, I did not go back. It's a belief in saving yourself. That is what they're up against. You're talking about a full extraction. Yes, 100%. 100% we would take her. 100%. But the psychologists have to be prepared for those 3 things, and she's got to know about them. And the truth is, you're going to go back. If you cannot, you got to get to this point. If you don't make it through these 3 stages, you're going to go back. So ask yourself now, do you want to be here? Because if you're going to get here, that's okay, but you got to make it through those 3 stages. And that's not what they're prepared for. That's what they got to get prepared for. Extraction is something I am definitely planning on. That's a passion of mine, domestic violence and extractions. And then getting the mother, having a whole facility for that, yes.
Yes, that would be great. The full extraction. Remember, there is a mother and the 2 kids.
Yeah.
And the problem is this: she's willing to be extracted, plus the children. Even now, she's willing to get out, but there is nowhere to go to. That is the challenge that she's having. She knows that the environment where she is living in is not conducive. It is a bad environment that she needs to exit as soon as possible, but she doesn't have the option. That is what most of them are experiencing. You have known your problem, you have known what is ailing you, but there is no escape route.
Yeah.
There's no alternative space. And that is why we are going to play a significant role in their lives. Like this case, I also felt very emotional. You remember, she's also having HIV infected, so she needs somehow kind of special care. And also the kids also needs to be tested, because some of them were born at home. You know, the very moment you're positive and you have not been attended to while you're giving birth in hospital, probably the child will be positive. And you remember, in Africa, some of the women who are going to deliver have no money to go to the hospital, so they deliver in the house. Some of them are alone in the house. They deliver themselves, wake up, cut the umbilical cord, and begin to breastfeed the child alone, single-handedly. So most of them cannot even access hospital. So what we don't know is whether these children were given birth to in the hospital facility. So that is what I'll just do a follow-up and then see what will happen. The next one, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, definitely.
The next one, in Africa, you realize that there is this problem whereby, for example, you are a young girl, you eloped with a boyfriend, and you get pregnant along the road. You are a student, maybe you are in secondary school, you are in a college, and I told you sometimes back when we were speaking is that in Africa culture, girl child education is not regarded, not given the respect that it deserves. And in most cases, they would prefer to educate the boy at the expense of the girl. The girls are just option. So you realize that some of them are taken to school, and the very moment you become pregnant, you are sent away from home with nowhere to go and live in. And so the questionnaire, I mean, the one giving the question is narrating her case that she was sent away from the house because she became pregnant. The dad said that he does not want to see her with the baby. So the dad sent her away with the pregnancy. And in most cases, I don't know whether this happens in the US, in case a man impregnates you, a boyfriend, for example, it is very common. Some people are in college and you have your boyfriend and girlfriend, they are in the same college. And in case you get pregnant as a lady, your family will force you to go and live with that man. So we have very many first ladies who are forced to go and live with a boyfriend. So this one is saying that she was forced to go and live with a boyfriend. Boyfriend is naive, is not mature enough, because remember they met in school system. The both of them are not mature. So this man himself cannot be a husband, is naive, cannot be responsible, cannot take care of her, plus the baby. So the question is, how can we handle this case? Because the dad doesn't want the child, and the dad is willing to continue to educate her, but only without the child. Take the child to the one who made you pregnant and come back without a child.
In that case, I mean, really, that would be up to the mother. I would ask the mother how she would problem solve it. Really, that's what she needs to learn how to do, how to problem solve this. Now, let's assume for a moment that our facility is there. Let's assume for a moment that our facility is there. She would be getting top quality education from us and someone to watch the child while she's being educated. As far as her situation right now, this is what I'm saying. Her father is willing to educate her, but only with a certain stipulation. No. This is not about education. This is about control. This is 100% about control. And if he were truly educated well enough to teach her, he would never make such a stipulation. He is not qualified to be a teacher. So I would say, no, not at all. I would say, thanks, Dad, but no thanks. You're not qualified to be my teacher. He's already proven that he's an incompetent teacher by making those kind of stipulations. That being said, was she in class learning from you, or was this another letter written down anonymously?
No, she was in attendance.
She was in attendance. Oh yeah, so she's good. She's already getting the best education. She's good. Yeah, I wouldn't, that's not about education. That's about power. He was playing a power role. That was about control. This is the hardest thing to recognize. Of all the stuff I have studied, this is the hardest thing. This is what I call the narcissist's bag of tricks or the abuser's bag of tricks. It is vile. It is abuse in disguise as something nice. In America and in Western European culture, in Greek mythology, we call that wolf in sheep's clothing. And this is the hardest thing to study and to see and to recognize. He was not doing her a favor. He was not helping her. He was getting a power trip by controlling her. So no, she should not allow him to teach her because he's going to teach her how to manipulate people like that. That's what she's going to learn from him. So no, absolutely not. And also by telling him, yeah, thanks, but no thanks, she takes the power back, which is actually incorrect. She takes her self-authority back. She takes her self-value back. That's what she gets from that kind of a decision. They say you should never, or you should never negotiate with terrorists. They're right. Never negotiate with terrorists. And never play games with an abuser. Never play an abuser's game. Do not play that game. They win if you play the game.
Yes. You know, like this is a blessing in disguise, as you rightly mentioned, because they want to use education as a scapegoat why you are being punished. And on the other hand, they are punishing you. So I think this is another case of double extraction.
Yes, that's what I was subjected to for 6 years. That is exactly what I was subjected to for 6 years. Is I received high education and at the expense of my own whoredom. And it causes so much mental illness, so much. I hated my own wisdom and knowledge for a long time because of the terms in which I had to earn it. So by her saying, no, thanks, she prevents that kind of mental damage from being done to her.
All right. And what program do we have for the persons with disability? Like the next question is in line with the disability. She's saying that my auntie is deaf in the village and being raped multiple times with different men. She cannot raise a complaint because the local government representatives in the village are not conversant with sign language. And so she's only seen pregnant year after year, currently 4 children with no gap in between, no one to report to. There is no facility that can take her. So what plan are we having? I don't know whether it made some
For
sense.
someone like that, we would have the option of them to come in. We would 100% have the option to come in. We would need someone to learn sign language, Kenyan sign language, to communicate with her, or English sign language, whichever one she's learned. I used to study it, but I only studied American, and I believe there's American sign language and then there's English sign language. I only learned parts of American sign language. We would have to have somebody who speaks sign language, 100%. I don't believe in disabilities. This is going to sound weird. I don't believe in disabilities. I have been studying the psychology of people who are deaf, people who have missing limbs. And what I've noticed is two sides of the spectrums. And this is all about mental health. This is all about psychology. These people over here going, I don't have a disability. I'm perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with me. And I don't need anyone treating me like I'm mentally ill just because I am not like everybody else. And people with dwarfism falls into this category. I've seen war amputees with this mentality. I've seen people with birth defects, variations. And 100% of all of these people are like, I don't have a disability. I don't need special cases. These people saying I have a disability actually have a mental illness. Their only disability is mental illness. I've studied both sides of the spectrum. And the only difference between these two groups is these people have mental illness over their disability, and these people have learned how to accept it. And then they get upset. Well, they get upset, and then they laugh about it, and then they brush it off like it's nothing. And they say, I'm not going to hide who I am. I don't have a limitation. I learned how to live with it. Or I don't have a limitation. It's who I am. I don't consider it a limitation at all. And they don't want to be treated like they're different. They're not different. They're people. So what I see when you explain this woman, I saw a woman who was being raped. I didn't see a deaf woman. I saw a woman who was being raped. She happens to speak a language. That's it. We just need to find a translator. We just need to find a translator. She just speaks a different language. So my question immediately was, well, which language does she speak? Does she speak? My first thought was, can I speak to her? Because I speak really, really bad English Sign Language. And then I thought, well, no, she might be speaking Kenyan Sign Language. So
Kenyan.
so that was my first thought, was which language does she speak? I didn't think of it as a disability at all. I'm more focused on the multiple rapes and being forced to be pregnant back to back. But then I thought, so let's talk about government. And this is the delusion of government. Do you really have a government? Does anyone really have a government if things like this are taking place? Do any of us really have a government if this is the standard? Just philosophical food for thought. And that's it right there. There's no one to report to. I have the same problem in America. I got raped and there was no one to report to. I reported it and they laughed at me. So, yeah, there's no authority. There's the delusion of authority. There's a bunch of bullies running around bullying with their authority, but there's no one who helps. There's no one who helps. There's a system that keeps you impoverished by dumbing you down, making you stupid, and then putting you through their system and then putting you in a catch-22 trap so they can keep you. There's that going on. But government authority, I'm not seeing one around. Philosophical food for thought. So yes, to that woman, we would absolutely just bring her in. We would open our doors and invite her to come in, and we would help her whichever way she'd want. We would lay out all of the options for her and say, there you go. A government's job is to nourish the people. That's why they're there, is to nourish the people. And it's, yeah. So no, they're not going to help her. No, facilities are not available to help her. That's why I created the garden and Community Gaia, was because I was in the sewers and the trenches with everybody else going, there's no government here. We live in a lawless land. We live in a lawless land. I've witnessed it firsthand. And everywhere I go, we live in a lawless land. There is no law. What there is you have to have a lot of money, and you have to have a lot of really skilled attorneys who can out-argue each other but not use logic. Justice, you've been in the prison system. You've seen it. That's not justice, not even close. So no, there's not going to be facilities. As far as what I would do in her case, open the door, give her options, let her choose. 100 let her choose. And that tells me, all right, mental note, we need to make sure we have translators for sign language on hand. Could she write? That was the other question. Could she write? Because if she can write, that's a language. That's a language communication we could use. She wrote the question, right?
No, the niece was asking on her behalf.
Oh, on her behalf. Okay. All right. So she did have someone who could speak for her. Okay.
On
So,
her behalf.
so then, yeah,
Everybody's aware, they are aware that she is being taken advantage of, but the way you have said, there is nowhere to report to.
yeah,
If you report to the police station, they make fun of you. And things of such a nature are made fun of in government facilities.
yeah,
So they need somebody who can take care of them. But
yeah,
reporting them is never a solution.
yeah,
You remember you told me sometimes back that reporting a rapist is not going to solve the situation. We need to attend to the one that has been raped.
yeah,
Taking them to court is just shaming them in the public platform.
yeah. It's
But
absolutely useless. Yeah,
the healing of the one that has been raped is not being considered at all. You
yeah,
punish the offender, and the offended will remain with the mental illness.
hmm,
So that is what happens. In case of marriage, it is very difficult for somebody to come out and report such a case of rape
yeah. Same
because
thing for the States. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing over here. It's a laughable joke. It's nothing. Yeah. So yeah, in that case, Community Gaia, once it's built, it would be 100%. You don't have to go back there. You can stay. She'd go through the 3 stages again. It'd be exactly like an extraction. And then from there, it would be, does she really want to go here? And if she really wants to get to that point, she's going to have to prepare. And this is what the psychologist would be teaching her, is how to prepare her for these 3 stages so that when she gets to so she can get to the stage. And, oh, and then, yeah, that's the self-doubt, the guilt. Yeah. Yeah. Belief that it can't be any different. That's what they would need to coach her through. And then it's give her the focal point, focus on that focal point. We got to get you here, focal point. And then working your way through it. Remember the focal point. Same thing with suicide, exact same process. Focal point, get on this. You're going to go through the stages, but get there. You got to go through it. The only way through is through.
All right. So I think we still have a lot. So I think we can postpone those to the other day.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. That was it's really wonderful to see. Yeah. It gives me this is fantastic. It gives me a really good solid look at where everything is and how it's moving. So we will definitely continue those then either tomorrow or the next day. I am available both days. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.